Chapter 5. I caressed Bella's hand gently with my thumb as we walked the last 50 feet down the SeaTac Airport concourse. A harried mother stood off to the side, scolding her young son for losing a shoe. "Oh, Lord, please help me make it through this flight. If one more thing goes wrong, I don't know." Behind me, the squeak, squeak, squeak of a broken caster drew attention to one of the many voices humming through my mind. "She can't resist packing just one more thing, can she? This suitcase is gonna burst. There's no way they'll let us keep it as a carry-on, and I'll spend the entire flight listening to her whine about her sister instead of finishing that book." I felt a little sympathy for the disgruntled man. Not every man was blessed with an angel in his life. Stopping at our gate, I turned to Bella, marveling again at the beautiful creature who was now my wife. As I gazed into her curious eyes, I felt like my silent heart would burst with pure, unadulterated joy. "Houston?" Bella asked, with her eyebrows raised. Her curiosity was roiling beneath the surface of her usually calm gaze. "Just a stop along the way," I assured her, with a gentle smile. I tried to contain my excitement as I imagined her response to our honeymoon retreat. I had planned it all in meticulous detail, and I hoped, dared to dream, that she would love it. I tried not to think beyond her reaction to the location, quickly squashing my nervous doubts as we swiftly boarded the plane. Bella sighed. A tiny smile played across her lips as she settled gratefully into her plush leather seat. I glanced down the length of the plane. The cabin was barely 1/3 full, and only 5 other passengers shared the first-class section at the front of the cabin. In less than one breath, I assessed those closest to us. My survival instincts were subconscious, quickly reading their surface thoughts, looking for negative reactions or threatening intentions. Assured, I turned my attention back to the frail human girl, no, woman, at my side. For decades, I had struggled to come to terms with my unnatural existence. I questioned my purpose, and the justification for a species that seemed to be cursed. Hideous, monstrous, parasitic creatures that we were. Vampires. Part of me had always recoiled from the word, but no longer. Glancing down again, I watched the steady rise and fall of Bella's chest. Her even breathing, slow, gentle heartbeat, and faint rosy flush of her cheeks. They mesmerized me. To think, when I had first caught her scent less than 2 years ago, I had hated her, hungered for her blood, planned her demise over and over in horrifying detail. I had thought her a demon, sent to destroy me and the lives of my family. Instead, she was my purest gift. She was my salvation. I absently noted the flight attendants readying the cabin for departure, but I couldn't take my eyes off her angelic face. Bella wrapped a thick navy blue blanket around her shoulders and smiled up at me, her full lips curving delicately. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too, Mrs. Cullen." Her heart quickened slightly, and I grinned at her sudden blush. She giggled quietly, resting her head against my chest. I inhaled deeply. The warm scent of her hair seared my throat, but I ignored it. My hand reveled in the silkiness of her hair, stroking gently across her shoulders and down her spine. Gradually, her breathing slowed and her body relaxed in my embrace. The hours slipped peacefully away as I watched my Bella sleep. The plane touched down smoothly in Houston, not even disturbing her dreamless slumber. I was loath to wake her, but we still had a long distance to travel. I shook her gently and waited as her body reacted and her eyelids fluttered open. Wordlessly, she rose and followed me. Her complete confidence was a gift that I did not take lightly. I treasured it, alongside the countless other signs of her affection. I could see Bella was struggling to keep her eyes open. She stumbled against me several times as we disembarked, and I gripped her elbow softly to steady her. Her eyes darted up to mine gratefully. I suppressed a small laugh as I scanned the concourse. It was early morning in Houston, and the airport was bustling with activity. The thoughts of hundreds of travelers swirled around me, and I automatically tuned out the din. Ah, there it is. Glancing down at Bella again, I could see she barely registered her surroundings. She blindly trusted me to lead her safely through the tumultuous crowds, only showing a spark of energy when we reached our gate. "Rio de Janeiro?" She sounded a little nervous, and I had to remind myself that Bella had only traveled outside of the United States once, when she had flown to Italy at the risk of her own life to save me. Just that fleeting thought sent my inner vision soaring back to the vampire-ruled city of Voltura. I was reliving my reckless flight toward death and oblivion, a flight that was filled with pain and misery, but that ended unexpectedly with Bella's precipitous return into my life. The memory flashed through my mind instantly. Despite its brevity, the experience was intense. I momentarily considered all the decades that I had walked this earth, the cultures I had experienced, governments rising and falling amid war and social turmoil. Surely I had seen it all, and yet I would witness this world through new eyes now. With Bella at my side, this world, this universe, was completely reborn. I wondered at the change in me, for Bella had altered me absolutely and permanently. Bella was still waiting for my response. She didn't even seem to notice the slight hesitation in my reply. "Another stop," I reassured her, with a serene smile. She nodded once, but the slight crease between her eyebrows reappeared as she puzzled over our destination. Once on board, I managed to get Bella to drink 2 cups of water, aware of how dry aviation air would be for her, but she drifted quickly back to sleep before the breakfast cart arrived. With her cradled in my arms, I was able to forget the horrors of the past and just treasure the knowledge that I was complete, at last. The dip in the tone of the engines and the subtle change in pitch and air pressure signaled the beginning of our descent into Rio de Janeiro. The last light of the day clung to the western sky. I would be so relieved when we finally reached our island oasis, and I could shed the need for concealment during the sunlit hours. I had adjusted to the restrictions of this clandestine life decades ago. However, it rankled to be confined to the shadows when I wanted nothing more than to walk fearlessly and openly next to my love, uninhibited by the secrecy that defined my existence. Soon, I told myself. Very soon. Bella stiffened next to me. Her heartbeat quickened as she awoke. The increasing pressure must have permeated her unconscious mind, alerting her to our imminent arrival. She smiled cautiously at me. Her small hand found mine and clasped it possessively. I suppressed a grin. "Yes, I'm still here." I retracted the window shade and looked out over the twinkling lights of Rio de Janeiro. We were on our final approach to the Galeão International Airport, soaring over the Baía de Guanabara, the sea-like bay that was home to Rio's active port and one of the busiest airports in the world. Before us, the Rio Niterói Bridge spanned the bay, glowing like a fiery snake with the headlights of 1,000 cars. Watching the approach was thrilling. The water beneath us was black as ink, and the brilliant lights of the sprawling metropolis lit up the humid air for hundreds of feet above the city, creating the illusion that we were sinking into the ground. When we finally touched down, it was abrupt. The pilot engaged the thrust reversers to slow the aircraft more quickly, and I felt Bella lurch forward in her seat. I held her reassuringly as she shook her head to stave off the lethargy that weighed down her limbs. When we disembarked, Bella clung to my side, obviously overwhelmed by the bustling airport. I reclaimed our luggage, flagging down a porter to follow us out to the curb with everything. I could have carried it all without effort, but avoiding undue attention was second nature. I signaled for a taxi, tipped the porter, and helped Bella into the rear seat when the car pulled to a stop before us. I gave the driver instructions in swift, unaccented Portuguese. His mind registered brief surprise at my fluency, but he nodded without a word and pulled away from the curb. I watched as Bella gazed curiously out of the window at the teeming streets. Rio at night was something else. Maybe we would spend some time here as well. She leaned closer into my body, and I inhaled her enticing aroma. Then again, maybe not. I wanted to spend every second alone in her arms.